Thank you for everyone here that is following us, investing in us, believing in us, buying our cars.
Reading so many articles lately about Fisker, especially the negative ones,
I think it's just the worst car I've ever tested.
I became increasingly curious about Henrik Fisker and his journey in the automotive industry. Who is he and what drives his vision? Why did he start an automotive startup, considering that 50% of all startups in the US fail within the first 5 years and only 25% remain after 15 years? Given this was his second attempt and it also failed, I wanted to evaluate and compare Fisker's performance with the biggest names in the automotive sector. Was everyone successful right away or did some fail? Spoiler alert, Henry Ford revolutionized the automotive industry on his third attempt. With 10 years of experience in the automotive sector, I wanted to give you an insider perspective how difficult it is to be successful in this industry. It's easy to label someone as a cheat or a fraud, but often there is much more to the story. So I've been diving deep, exploring everything I can about Henrik Fisker and his 35 years in the automotive sector. I've spoken to industry experts, journalists, and Fisker owners, and after months of research, I feel like I finally understand Fisker's vision, what he did right, and the challenges and errors that led to his company's failure.
It's a solid-state battery technology, which this allows you to charge in 1 minute and get more than 700 miles if you want.
EV, I got EVs everywhere. Is there enough room for all these EVs?
I'll tell you, if I was making a $100,000 vehicle, no. I've been there, done that. Where the next frontier is affordability with a cool electric vehicle. I mean, our vehicle starts at $37,500 and we make a profit on it.
This video aims to provide a fair and factual account on the rise and fall of Fisker, highlighting the successes, challenges, and the true impact of the MKBHD review. You can find a document in the description of the video which includes all the sources that I've used to make this video. And if you haven't watched the first part, I highly recommend you to do so, linked above, which includes the Fisker's first venture with Fisker Karma and Fisker Atlantic. Henrik Fisker, a visionary designer with over 30 years of experience, has brought about very striking, innovative, and timeless designs. Fisker began professional journey as an automotive designer at BMW in 1990. Within 8 years, he became the CEO of DesignWorks, a BMW subsidiary, leading a team of 130 creative minds. His breakthrough came with the BMW Z07 concept, which later evolved into the iconic C8 Roadster, a vehicle that even graced the silver screen as James Bond's last BMW. In 2000, Fisker joined Ford as a creative director, while simultaneously serving as a board member and design director at Aston Martin. At Aston Martin, he crafted iconic models like the V8 Vantage and the DB9, and he contributed to the Shelby GR1 concept. In 2005, Fisker founded Fisker Coachbuild, introducing beautiful designs such as the Arteca GT, Latigo, and Tramonto. However, the biggest risk he took was setting up his own company in 2007, Fisker Automotive. There he designed the captivating Fisker Karma and Atlantic. Unfortunately, this venture faced various challenges and ultimately failed. Later, he joined the VLF Automotive as a senior advisor, working on the Force One design and independently contributing to the 2015 Mustang Rocket. In 2016, Fisker announced his return. In 2016, Henrik Fisker made a comeback, learning from his past mistakes and setting the sights on the next big thing, electric vehicles. He envisioned two models, a luxury car to compete with the Model S and an affordable one to rival the Model 3, both targeting a 400-mile range with a state-of-art batteries. Initially, Fisker planned in-house manufacturing by acquiring a plant. The luxury car, later known as Emotion, was priced at $129,000 with a production plan for 2019. For a state-of-art battery, Fisker partnered with Nanotech to develop graphene-enhanced supercapacitors combined with the traditional lithium-ion batteries for better storage and faster charge times. However, as it became evident that this technology wasn't mature yet, he shifted his focus to solid-state batteries in 2017. After working a couple of years on it, he realized that it was far away from replacing the conventional lithium-ion batteries, and by 2021, he dropped it altogether and focused on the fastest growing segment in EVs, SUVs with conventional batteries, opting for asset-light strategy with contract manufacturing and a direct sales model.
In 2019, I think he told first time about the car. Okay, we will bring an SUV for the mass market under $40,000 on the streets. SUVs are the most sold segment in the electric car market. I also think in the fuel market also. Last year in 2023 alone in Europe, I think around 50 or 55% of all cars sold were only SUVs.
This led to the development of the beautiful Fisker Ocean, and by 2020, Fisker went public with an estimated value of $2.9 billion, listing on New York Stock Exchange. The car featured a striking design, a minimalistic yet elegant interior, and attractive specs. 564 horsepower, 737 Newton meters of torque, 0 to 100 km per hour in 3.9 seconds or 3.7 seconds with a boost function. A large 106 kWh net battery offering a 360-mile EPA or 707 km WLTP range with 10 to 80% charge in 35 minutes using a fast DC charger. It is quite impressive considering Fisker's original vision in 2016, a 400-mile range car with a luxury aerodynamic sedan. Hence achieving 360 miles EPA range with an SUV years later is a major accomplishment.
Long range, which has proven to be pretty good, right? If you know how to drive the car, it pretty much holds accurate to its range.
From a build quality perspective and from a design and fit and finish and feel, they met or in some cases exceeded my expectations.
Passengers, even those in the rear seats, enjoy a comfortable ride, earning praise from enthusiasts and critics alike.
So I've taken the car on trips that are over 200 miles and it drives great and it's comfortable and I've got no issues. I like that the interior is actually quite roomy. Passengers in the back also feel comfortable.
This is the best back seat experience of any of the EVs that it's competitive with.
Initially, Volkswagen MEB platform was the preferred choice, but Fisker later turned to Magna, the world's largest contract manufacturers of automobiles. Magna boasts an impressive yearly capacity of 200,000 cars and has produced a staggering 3.7 million cars, including 500,000 Mercedes G-Class models since 1979. Magna's reliability made people more willing to take a risk with Fisker.
Part of the reason why I felt so confident in taking this risk was the fact that Magna was behind the building of the cars themselves. I've owned a few Magna cars over the years.
In total, Fisker received up to 65,000 pre-orders, and with slight delays, the car was produced by the end of 2022. However, a critical challenge emerged. The software wasn't ready yet. Faced with a dilemma, Fisker had to choose between delaying production or proceeding and fixing it with the software updates later. The decision was made to roll out the cars without the promised features, which wouldn't be available until 2024. Notably, lane keep assistant, blind spot monitoring, and automatic high beams were among the delayed features. By early 2023, lane centering and traffic jam assist would be added, while the power bank package for vehicle-to-vehicle and vehicle-to-home charging was planned to roll out by 2024. Fisker remained confident that the Ocean's key unique features, such as the solar roof and California mode and the longest range in its class, would compensate for the missing software features which were to be updated later. Honestly, at first I thought California mode was a useless feature, but I was wrong. The ability to open the sunroof, all side windows, and the rear glass brings the experience as close as possible to a cabriolet, which has a huge appeal to customers.
The thing that really bought me about the car is California mode.
Furthermore, Fisker established key strategic partnerships in Europe, for example with Allego, which benefits the customer with 1 year of free fast charging. The Fisker Ocean I drove covered already 26,000 kilometers within an year, approximately 6,000 kilowatt hours were consumed, and 75% of the charging was taking place at Allego sites. This translates into at least 3,000 euros worth of free charging. By 2023, Fisker announced 3 new models: the PEAR, Alaska, and RONIN, with PEAR and Alaska to be produced in 2025. Fisker aimed to sell nearly 42,000 Oceans by 2023. With the affordable PEAR price below $30,000, Fisker planned to sell 1 million cars every year of PEAR by 2027.
The PEAR, this is going to be for sure a bestseller, and one day I want to get to 1 million a year in this. Of course, not just produced in one factory, in several factories.
Adding the medium-sized pickup truck Alaska to the lineup, he aimed to penetrate the markets in US, Europe, China, and India. After gaining experience, he wanted to move away from the contract manufacturing and build up his own factory. However, due to poor planning, logistical and operational hurdles, coupled with the rising interest rates, Fisker had to repeatedly cut down forecasts from 42,000 all the way to only 13,000 by end of 2023. According to the reports from Raymond James, one of the largest and most respected independent financial services firm, they estimated positive EBITDA by 2025, contingent on the success of PEAR and Alaska projects, along with Fisker Ocean reaching 40,000 cars by 2024. However, a subsequent report in Q1 2024 removed PEAR and Alaska from the equation. Instead, they guesstimated if the Ocean could achieve 60,000 cars per year within 3 years, positive EBITDA would be possible in 2026. Unfortunately, Fisker's situation has worsened in Q2 2024. With a total production of 11,193 Oceans, approximately 6,400 were sold, leaving 4,793 units in the inventory. Fisker now faces a critical challenge, selling out the existing stock. As a result, drastic price reductions up to 40% have been implemented for the cars existing, and due to this drastic shortfall, their stock has plummeted and basically became a penny stock. In an attempt to save the business, Fisker decided to move from direct sales to a dealership model, planning to onboard up to 100 dealers in the US and Europe to generate an influx of money. Unfortunately, it seems like Fisker Inc. is going to go out of business and awaiting a potential takeover from a major player. Despite well-priced and innovative designs, Fisker faced numerous challenges and made critical errors, leading to its downfall. Let's examine the details, challenges and problems. First being finalizing the strategy. In a dynamic automotive market, startups must strike a balance between fixed strategy and adaptability. From 2016 till 2019, Fisker initially aimed to manufacture the cars in-house, a daunting task involving investments and supply chain management, which Elon Musk described as a production hell.
We are right now, we actually out looking for a factory. We're looking at existing buildings. We're talking to 8 different states about it. And
the manufacturing is somewhere between 100 and 1,000 times harder than making a prototype. I really cannot emphasize enough how hard production is relative to design.
However, by 2020, Fisker made a strategic move.
Fisker made many things right. They knew they don't want to produce the cars itself, so they go to a specialty producer like Magna.
This strategy shift allowed Fisker to focus on designs and operations while leveraging Magna's manufacturing expertise. While some might argue that the deal with Volkswagen for MEB platform fell through, it's important to note major OEMs impose rigid contractual terms, making direct collaboration very challenging. For example, the Volkswagen-Renault deal to produce cheaper EVs at $20,000 also collapsed. Fisker's recent move to move away from exclusive direct sales to dealership model is a strategic decision, but it comes at a cost. According to Raymond James and Associates, under the direct sales model, they estimated gross margin without depreciation and amortization of Fisker to reach a maximum of 18% at the peak of Ocean sales, that is 60,000 cars per year in 2026. But transitioning to dealership model means sacrificing some of the profitable service business and giving out special prices for dealers. I don't have the insights, but I could expect the maximum gross margin without depreciation and amortization could now lie between 10 to 15%, and this is a very thin gross margin to operate and sustain.
The decision to go with the dealership model rather than to direct to consumer like Tesla's doing, I would actually, in addition to the cash influx of dealers actually holding inventory, which is obviously beneficial to Fisker. Another benefit of the dealership model, I would say, is that it gives customers some level of confidence that Fisker is going to exist, right? Because there's a physical location where you can go to actually interact with the company. And that's going to give customers an increased level of confidence relative to just a direct-to-consumer model where, a company can swipe your credit card for a deposit, wire the money over to, take title of the vehicle, and that never actually physically interact with you.
Also, we have to consider another aspect that the dynamics of the industry are also changing.
There's a typical S-shaped adoption curve, and I think we've solidly moved into the late majority. This would be the 50 to 75th percentile consumers who would consider an EV purchase, but are maybe a little bit later to the scene, and they are going to value a more traditional dealership experience where they can go to a site, interact with the cars, have a discussion about how to finance them, custom spec the vehicle, whatever it might be.
The second challenge, late design adjustments. The primary goal of automotive concept development is to create a cost-efficient, customer-centric, and competitive full vehicle concept. During this process, multiple vehicle variants are meticulously designed, considering geometric and functional aspects, within economic and regulatory constraints. In Fisker's first attempt with Karma, the design was not finalized until the very last stages, leading to extraordinary high cost and poor quality control. In their second attempt, partnering with Magna, they plan to use the EV platform jointly created by Bike and Magna. This seemed promising on paper, but later realized that significant modifications were required to comply with the US and European regulations. This disrupted their development timeline. Fisker struggled with these new unforeseen challenges while managing day-to-day operations, a formidable task for any startup. Consequently, Fisker faced delays in design adjustments, component-level testing, and homologation, ultimately forcing them to release vehicles with incomplete software and ADAS features to meet production targets. The next big challenge was downturn in e-mobility and external factors. The period and circumstances under which Fisker had to develop and ramp up the production of Fisker Ocean were extremely challenging.
I think Fisker could have done all things on the right side, but also could have other problems because Tesla was pushing too hard. BYD is coming from China and so on.
In 2020, the automotive sector grappled with the pandemic-related shutdowns. By 2021, raw material prices soared to unprecedented levels. In 2022, semiconductor shortages led to staggering lead times of cars up to 14 months. Global conflicts worsened inflation, prompting interest rate hikes in 2023. These economic shifts discouraged new car ownerships and financing. The same year, Tesla, the largest and most profitable EV manufacturer, decided to drop the prices by up to 20% as the demand was decreasing, but they could take the hit without significant damage, but other OEMs couldn't compete with them. Furthermore, consolidation is underway, extending beyond OEMs, charging infrastructure manufacturers, and system integrators.
Don't think we will see in the next 5 years the same brands like we see now.
Lordstown, Proterra, Volta Trucks, and Tritium bankruptcies, along with Tesla's supercharger team downsizing, and difficult situation of Lucid and Rivian point out this trend. Remarkably, the same things were happening a century ago. Back then, 253 manufacturers produced 65,000 cars. However, 3 decades later, only 44 remained, producing 4.5 million cars, and this consolidation is still happening in the automotive sector today. Overambitious or lying? Fisker faces a common challenge: overcommitment. The question is, did he genuinely believe his ambitious promises, or was it borderline vaporware?
I think he was at the technical and design stage of the car. It was very early, it was on the prototype series, and I think he made best guesses based on the information he had to this time. But if you go in series with the car, you have to do your other tests, you have to do homologation and so on, where a different set of tests were made on these street cars, on these series cars. And therefore, on any OEM, there are changes. I don't think they communicate them so openly like Henrik Fisker did, but I understand both sides because the customer wants to know some facts about the cars which are coming, and he has to make up a story or has to tell a story to sell his product.
Interestingly, Fisker is not alone in this struggle. In my experience, every OEM tries to gain an edge by advertising higher numbers, even if they are unachievable under real-life conditions.
Tesla loses 4 out of the 6 drag races in the 8th mile. Tesla loses 6 out of the 6 drag races in the quarter mile. And if you compare the best Porsche run versus the best Tesla run, Tesla loses in both the 8th and in the quarter mile. This is not something unique to this electric F-150. I think plenty of vehicles out there, whether they're gas, diesel, whatever, tons of vehicles out there could have done this experiment because it was done on a railroad track with steel wheels on a steel rail, and that enables you to have this really low force that you're able to pull that mass with.
So I and many other very optimistic people have been waiting for the new Tesla Roadster to be the first reasonable two-door electric sports car ever since it was unveiled 5 years ago in 2017. And then 2020 came and went, and it was a bit of a weird year, so then 2021 happened. Still nothing. Now it's 2022. This car is probably not coming out till 2024 at least.
Now let's discuss the critical errors, and right away I have to start with family involvement and toxic work environment. the decision to involve family members in the business proved detrimental. Despite their lack of experience in the automotive sector, family members were placed in key roles. A comparison between Gita Fisker and the CFO of major automotive companies like Volkswagen, Daimler, and Porsche reveals a mismatch. Multiple accounts indicate that Gita fostered an atmosphere of fear and intimidation. This demoralized the workforce, leading to high employee turnover. Additionally, the management team lacked trust in their employees and failed to encourage open dialogue. Critical car issues were downplayed and the production issues remained unaddressed. Supplier selection followed a flawed pattern, with Gita favoring the fastest and cheapest suppliers despite objections from other executives. The next critical error was poor operations, accounting, and service. While Magna built the car, Fisker faced significant challenges related to operations, account management, financial management, and services.
One of the really amazing things that the Fisker team did was, because my car was supposed to be delivered in time for my wedding, which was last August, and they missed that delivery window. Henrik sent one of the executives from Fisker up to our wedding with a car, so that we would have one to be able to drive folks around for that weekend. So that was just a sign of what they were trying to do as an organization in terms of really building a consumer base that was attached to the brand and invested in it.
Robust operations were necessary, and having control over every step, including port clearance, was very crucial. However, the execution fell drastically short. Cars arriving at the port experienced significant delays due to paperwork issues, including incorrect temporary DMV plates. Some customers waited 3 months for their cars after port arrival, even after constantly following up, as the representatives kept changing and documents were also misplaced. Fisker couldn't keep track of invoicing the customers, and nearly $16 million went missing. Given this was a new car, delay in features and frequent customer calls in the first year were to be expected. Initially, the service department provided excellent support for early deliveries, benefiting from a smaller customer base. However, as more cars hit the road, issues surfaced. The service team lacked proper structure and dedicated resources. Gita aimed to handle the customer requests digitally, for example via chatbot. Although it's not a bad idea, unfortunately the chatbot struggled to understand even basic queries, leading to customers' frustration. To compensate for this error, Prelude system was onboarded in October 2023 to assist with service cases, but effective service requires extensive preparation, including training and certifications, and 3 months later in January 2024 they were let go. Another common complaint from the customer was that the car was being delivered without explanation to end customers, considering many of them were getting as a second car, and for few of them it was the first experience to shift from internal combustion car to electric vehicle. With operating instructions, listing down known issues and the ways to work with it, as well as provisionary rollout timeline of the features missing, would have been very practical. The next is Ambtion versus Realism. To develop 4 models simultaneously without delivering a fully functional product first was a significant miscalculation, and this led to diluted focus and resource misallocation. Another error, simultaneously launching the Ocean in USA and Europe with plans in place for China and India, posed logistical challenges, especially given stringent homologation requirements. The primary focus should have been perfecting the Ocean, starting with one region and expanding into multiple markets in stages, as successfully managing logistics for just one region is a formidable task. Fisker announced that both PEAR and Alaska models would go into production by 2025. While production of Alaska might be feasible by 2026 as it is based on Magna's platform, I cannot imagine PEAR before 2027. Foxconn, a highly qualified manufacturer of iPhones, was tasked with producing PEAR, and expecting to develop and manufacture a car with an inexperienced partner within 2 to 3 years is just unrealistic. Using the ideal numbers provided by Fisker, I tried to create a rough business case, and it translates into a $42 billion revenue for year 2027. With my experience working with automotive forecasts from IHS, a highly reliable source, to predict OEM's production numbers including ramp-ups and rundowns of a model, I found Fisker's proposed ramp-up to be unprecedented and defying anything that I've ever seen before. The decision to deliver vehicles without fully functioning software and thorough testing proved very costly for Fisker. Here are the few examples. Solar Sky or the solar roof. On paper, solar roof represent a remarkable innovation, and Fisker remains the sole provider of this technology since the days of Karma.
Our solar roof can give you over 3,000 kilometers a year in ideal conditions.
Or between 3 to 5 miles per day. However, in reality, even the slightest shade from trees, clouds and buildings causes the production to plummet to almost 0%. Based on conversation and reviews, I estimate under real-world conditions, one might achieve around 450 miles per year, that is 70% less than ideal conditions, and it translates into a modest benefit of approximately $44 per year. Unfortunately, negative headlines resulting from the software issues, coupled with the failure to match the promised range, have cast Fisker in a very bad light, hence pursuing solar roof seems to be more of a distraction than a worthwhile investment. Software and engineering issues. As the automotive industry is transitioning towards technology-driven solutions, it is not uncommon for hardware to be ready while software is lagging behind. Fisker faced this very issue and they weren't alone.
VW, Porsche, with the Carriot software, they had to postpone their Q6 e-tron and also the Porsche Macan for more than a year because of the software problems.
Unfortunately, Fisker did not have the luxury of delaying production. I still cannot understand Fisker's decision not to include Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Simple features that enhance user-friendliness and gives you more time and resources to focus your efforts on the features where the software was lagging behind. Among engineering errors, two stand out very prominently, and both are directly related to software. First, instead of traditional 2 key fobs, customer received only 1. The reason? Fisker aimed to use an app as a key, but it has been delayed and the key fob batteries drained within 4 to 8 weeks, posing a major inconvenience. However, the one that absolutely hurts the most is the phantom drain due to 12-volt battery, which is unacceptable for any EV driver. Gladly for some customers, this issue has been resolved with battery change and software 2.0, while others have seen improvement with software 2.0 but still grapple with the issue.
So let's say when I stop, the car has it's like at 75%. When I come in the next morning and I start it up again and I get ready to go, it'll probably be more like 71 or 70%. That means that by default, every day that I park the car at the house, I'm going to lose 15 miles of range, right? Which is power, which again has a cost, right? If you look at it, right? So the car costs me just to keep it sitting in the driveway. If it didn't have that drain, I think I would be happy with the car the way it is.
The delayed rollout of software for promised features is another area that needs to be addressed immediately.
Where I do feel that I a little underwhelmed or let down in certain areas is just that knowing what has been going on the financial side of the company, it has slowed down a lot of the software updates and some of the features and things that I would expect at this point to be on a car, especially a car of this cost. I'm not interested in the ADAS and all of those features, so that's not as much of a concern for me, but I would like for the power bank to work. That was a big selling point for me as well.
Now moving towards the end of this video, I want to discuss what I promised, MKBHD impact on Fisker. Did MKBHD review finish the company? His review undeniably left a significant mark on the survival chances of Fisker. Was it an honest review? Yes. Was it his best? Not in my opinion. As someone who's followed MKBHD for a decade, I deeply appreciate his dedication to creating informative and unbiased videos. It fell short in my opinion due to 2 particular reasons. First, the focus largely centered on the Fisker's problematic software, which is absolutely fair, yet 2 critical aspects which are absolutely important for any EV driver were absent. There was no mention of consumption, how accurate was the claim of 360 miles range, and what was the charging curve like. Second, considering the target audience. Most Fisker buyers intended it as a second car. They were among the early adopters and they are mostly aware of the risk they are taking by purchasing a car from a startup. Among the community, it was very widely reported that there will be software delays, but still the people were purchasing them. The second review of MKBHD, which came 1.5 months later by testing another Fisker Ocean with software 2.0, addressed the technical specs, but by that time, damage was already done. But the real villain in this situation, the phantom drain. George Saliba from J&S Mitsubishi dealership lent his Fisker to MKBHD, as MKBHD was not able to get hold of it directly from Fisker. George was initially excited about having Fisker vehicles at his dealership, but the very first car that was delivered to him was stuck on the truck due to complete phantom drain.
I bought a brand new Fisker from a customer and it's been stuck on top of this trailer, this transport trailer, for 6 hours. Won't move, battery's dead.
This persistent issue eroded his optimism.
Really appreciate you guys, Fisker. Thank you for reaching out. I've had a Fisker dead sitting in this spot over here, right here, for 1 whole month. Fisker flew someone out. They tried to fix it. They couldn't fix it. So how do we fix it?
The 12-volt battery.
How many times?
Twice.
Twice.
Perhaps with a hint of schadenfreude, he posted his call online with the Fisker rep about MKBHD review.
He's blowing up social media. He's got all the senior management from Gear to Fisker down.
Because he's talking crap on the Fisker, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I know. It's my Fisker.
Which went absolutely viral and became his highest watched TikTok video, further tarnishing the image of Fisker. This complete saga, MKBHD's viral video, followed by a leaked conversation, leaves Fisker with very slim chances of comeback. In conclusion, placing Fisker efforts on my chart, it's clear that the strategy was definitely better compared to the first attempt. However, due to improper planning and execution, they didn't achieve the intended success. And sadly, the future of the company does not look so bright at the moment. I sincerely hope that Fisker comes out as successful during this challenging phase. But the future survival of the company, it hinges on drastic decisions involving top management as well. Henrik Fisker excels in leading design teams, collaborating across groups to create remarkable cars. However, being a CEO demands a different skill set, and perhaps it is not the right role for him. Mr. Fisker, if you're listening and planning to continue as CEO, I hope these comments are taken constructively. Your designs are truly captivating, and one cannot help looking at them with admiration. I want the company to be successful, and hence consider fostering a culture of open feedback and actively listening to your employees and customers. The Fisker community is one of the most tightly knit community I've ever seen, with members helping each other when service was lacking. These are your referrals. They trusted you. You don't need extensive marketing. Once you get the basics right and the customer satisfaction improves, we will see many more Fiskers on the streets. Wishing you, the Fisker team, the Ocean owners and investors best of luck. If you found this video insightful, please support me by liking and sharing the video and subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much. Bye bye.